Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to Open Mic, the all-live open interaction show here on my YouTube channel. It's one of my favorite things I do every single day. My name, of course, is John Campea. It's an honor and a privilege to have you guys joining me here today. And this is a show where all we do is just take live questions. I take about 10 to 15 minutes of live questions now on the John Campea Show. But in the afternoons here on Open Mic, it's just an hour long of all questions. And here's how you get your questions on. You can use Super Chat to get your questions on. That guarantees you'll get your question answered, and it's a good way to support the channel as well, and I thank you for that, for you guys who support the channel that way. But also, if we run out of questions there, we'll round out the hour by taking some questions from you guys via Twitter. I can't guarantee you a question will get on, but you can follow me on Twitter, simply at John Campea, and fire off questions there. I'll let you know when it's time to start sending those in, if we still have time near the end of the show. Now, before we get started, I need to come clean with you guys on something that I've been stressing about this all day, not knowing how to communicate it, because it makes me look stupid. And, you know, I have some help now. Ray does some graphics for me. Jonathan does editing for me. But doing the live show and all, this is still all me. And the live production is just me. I'm the only one in the room. You know, back in my old gig, I had me at a desk, a few other people at a desk, and 3 other technical guys doing cameras, graphics, all that kind of stuff, audio. I'm doing it all myself. And I made a gaffe the other day, and I need to tell you guys about it, and I'm embarrassed by it, but there's just no way around it. I just need to tell you about it. Here's what happened. So over the last couple of days, there were 2 instances when I wasn't able to get to all the live questions that I said I would answer. There were some from a John Campea show, one from an open mic. And I took all those questions and I put them into this one notepad document. So, and my plan was to do a secondary video to make sure all those questions got answered. I went to record that video yesterday and I opened up the document and all the questions were gone. I don't remember doing it. All I can think of is that I must have rebooted the computer at some point and not saved it, or I might have accidentally deleted it or something. And here's where it was at. My guesstimate is there was probably about $100 worth of super chats between those shows all put together that I hadn't answered. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to take that $100 and I'm going to add another $100 of my own on top of that. And I'm going to donate $200 to one of the local women's shelters. I think it's probably do the Good Shepherd Center, but I'll look around and find a women's shelter here in Los Angeles, because heaven knows they could use all the support they can get. And what I'm going to do is take whatever money came in from those super chats, I'll match it with my own, so it'll come to around $200, and I'm going to make a donation to one of those causes on your behalf. So I know that doesn't make up for not getting your questions answered. There's nothing I can do here except just completely come clean and apologize that I somehow made another stupid technical mistake. I wish I could tell you it'll never happen again. I wish I could tell you that, but I simply do not trust myself. It may happen again in the future, which I feel really stupid about. But anyway, I needed to tell you guys that up front. I apologize. I will do my best to make sure that something like that never happens again. And again, I'm embarrassed. I'm really, really embarrassed. So I apologize. Anyway, with that out of the way, let's see if we can't lose the questions that we've had you guys send in today already, and let's get on to some movie discussion. And we'll start off the movie discussion over here, starting with Adam Griffin. And Adam Griffin writes, "Have you seen The Breadwinner yet? It's on Netflix, very haunting, and I highly recommend. It won't win, but it's a clear number 2 behind Coco for the Oscar. If I'm not mistaken, that's the one, yeah, it's directed by Nora Tooney. I think that's how you pronounce her last name. Anyway, it's a beautiful film. However, calling it the number 2 animated film behind Coco this year is not that difficult, because this was not, other than Coco, it really wasn't a very strong year for animated films this year, was it? But there were a couple exceptions. Breadwinner is very good. Coco, obviously outstanding, and that one's probably going to walk away with the Oscar, I believe. All right, next one up comes to us from Nathan C., who writes, "Joss, didn't really have a story. Sounds like DC." And yeah, I got a feeling we're going to get a number of comments on this today. Of course, the official word came out that Joss Whedon has departed Batgirl. And he put out this statement. I've got a video. I put up a video about this just about 45 minutes before we went live with this show. It's called Joss Whedon Departs Batgirl or something like that. You can see it. It's on my YouTube channel. And his official statement was very self-effacing in classic Joss Whedon style, but I don't believe it for a second. I mean, it's possible that it's true. He just basically said, I tried for months and I just couldn't come up with a story, so I left. Yeah, right. Joss Whedon, who infamously wrote the first draft of Cabin in the Woods over a weekend. The guy who did Dollhouse and Buffy and Serenity. This guy who's made a career out of doing strong female protagonists in hero roles. That guy couldn't come up with a story. Yeah. Okay, so, my belief here is that either A, there was never a Batgirl project to begin with. That it was just used as a cover for them bringing on Joss Whedon to replace Zack Snyder. And they just used the Batgirl project as a cover. That's one I'm not saying that's what it is. I'm just saying that's a possibility. Another possibility I said in the video was that, what was the other possibility? Oh yeah, that they just changed directions. I mean, look, there's a lot of upheaval going on at Warner Brothers and DC. Maybe they just changed directions, decided to go against it, and decided to cover it with a PR spin. Just have Joss, everybody's wonderful, everything's wonderful. I just couldn't come up with the story that I wanted. The third possibility here has to do with the controversy Whedon has found himself in, unfortunately. Stuff involving his ex-wife and infidelity and, calling his commitment to feminist issues into question, blah, blah, blah. Do you really want the next film he directs to be a female protagonist film after that controversy? Would that controversy dog it? Maybe this is a way for them to back out of it. I don't know what it is. I just don't believe the official statement. But I do like what you're saying, Nathan. Joss, didn't really have a story. Sounds like DC. Jose M. writes, but John, all kidding aside, wouldn't we all lose our minds if we got Batfleck for a solo Batman film and said the iconic phrase, "I'm Batman"? Well, look, I was the only guy on the planet. Everybody today, it's so BS. Everybody today goes, oh, no, I was all for Ben Affleck getting cast when he was cast. Please. I remember everything, okay? I remember very clearly everybody hated on that casting. And I was the first guy that I know of that got online and said, this is genius. Ben Affleck as Batman is perfect. And everybody laughed and everybody put around those memes going, that picture of Christian Bale laughing his head off, but they put the caption on it. And then they said, we don't need you. We'll get Ben Affleck as Batman. Or they had that, remember that other meme where it was a boardroom table filled with like people just laughing their heads off? And it says, it said at the top, Marvel offices. And the meme was, and then they said, oh yeah, well, we got Ben Affleck as Batman. It's like, I remember all that. Look, I love the idea of Affleck doing Batman. I think it's a crying shame he's not going to be our Batman for much longer, if at all. So I don't know, but if he were, like, if the stars realigned and behind the scenes there was some sort of reconciliation and getting on the same page, and we were magically next week to find out that Ben Affleck is going to do solo Batman movies, directing it and starring in it, I'm not kidding, I would throw a party. I would throw a frickin' party. I want that more than anything else in movies right now. I want a Ben Affleck directed and starred in Batman solo movie. That's what I want more than anything else in movies right now. So if they were to do that, I mean, I could give or take the line, I'm Batman. That's fine if they put it in, it's fine if they don't. But I want that movie, man, so bad. Manuel Fernandez writes, Variety is told by sources close to the situation that the exit was a mutual decision and that DC is striving to look for more female directors. Yeah, I don't know that I believe anything that Warner Brothers is leaking out. I just don't know that I believe it. Maybe it's true. Maybe there's a kernel of truth there that maybe it was a mutual decision over the status of where the DCEU is, over the status of maybe Warner Brothers and Joss Whedon don't want the added attention to fire up the controversy about him right now, and it's not a good idea to do a female. I mean, I speculated, remember a couple of months ago when this whole thing was going on, I said on the John Campea show that, I wonder if Joss Whedon won't direct Batgirl. Because maybe making his first film after all this controversy shouldn't be a female lead one. because that might just stoke the controversy more. So maybe it has something to do with that. Maybe it was a mutual decision. I just think there's so much more to this story that we are probably never going to hear. And maybe that's for the best, to be honest. Blake Carson writes, all this DC news exhausts me. So much flip-flopping around. Hardly anything that is announced actually happens. I'm sort of at an ultimatum now. I mean, really, it really does feel like as fans, we should probably just adopt a we'll believe it when we see it mentality when it comes. Look, this whole Gotham City Sirens thing, I don't believe that's ever going to happen. I mean, it may. I'm not saying it's not. I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying I have my doubts it's going to happen. I have my look, I'm calling right now. I'm having my doubts. Let's be honest. If I had to put $5 on, I'd still put $5 that's going to happen. But I'm just saying I have my doubts right now that this Matt Reeves Batman is even going to happen. I'm starting to have my doubts. If I had to put $5 on it right now, I'd say yes, I would bet $5 that it is still going to happen. But I'm just saying I'm starting to have my doubts about it. I mean, I just don't know what to believe with where things... I know that Aquaman is in the can. I mean, they're going to do some research that they're working on, but I know Aquaman is coming. That's for sure. They've started shooting Shazam. That's for sure. But I don't know what to believe anything else when it comes to the DCU at this point. Let's see. Trevor Johnson writes, my new DCEU motto is, I'll believe it when I see it. You read my mind, Trevor. You completely read my mind. That is completely, Trevor, where I am at as well right now. And look, no matter what happens, every time a new DCU movie comes out, I'm hoping for the best. And I'm going in with high hopes and I'm going in believing. Now, I'm rare in the sense that I've happened to be lucky enough that I've liked every DCU movie so far, but even somebody has liked them, I acknowledge they've had some massive problems. I acknowledge they've divided the critics, they've divided the audience, and they've caused a bit of a mess. I can admit that I like the films and still acknowledge the reality of the situation. Some people don't do that. But yeah, I'm kind of at a place that I'll believe when I see it at this point. James Peter writes, do you think they will ever reboot The Mask? I honestly don't think so. You know, and it's funny because I think almost every movie will eventually be rebooted. I don't know that they'll ever do another Mask. I just don't know. I just don't know if it would play well today. Even with a modern updated take on it, I just don't know that it would play the same. I mean, I loved The Mask when I was younger. That Jim Carrey, Cameron Diaz, loved that movie when I was younger. Let's see. Nathan C. writes, pet peeve I'm admitting to. Other pundits calling all old movies dated, dismissing seeing them, and assuming modern kids wouldn't enjoy good movies before 2000. Well, I'll be honest, I don't know any critics personally that say all old movies are dated. I mean, I know there are some older movies that are dated. I know that there are some older movies that would not play right today. There just are. And, you know, that we would have taken them a little bit differently if the first time we saw them was today. There are some films like that, but there are others that are all-time classic that will endure and that never feel dated and feel like they stand up because of their storytelling. But personally, I don't know of any critics myself that have come right out and said, any movie before 2000 is dated and wouldn't play today. I mean, I haven't seen that myself personally. And anybody that you have seen saying that, you're right to be peeved at it. You are right to be peeved at it, Nathan. All right. Next one comes to us from James Peter, who writes, Annihilation had a budget of $55 million, and yet the effects look better than that of a movie with double that. How is this possible? Well, I mean, look, it all depends on where they're spending the money and what type of effects they're doing. So, for instance, go back to District 9. I think the budget on District 9 was something in the neighborhood of like $30 million, and its visual effects were just outstanding. Really, really outstanding. With Annihilation, there's some very, very good effects. There's also some effects that aren't that intricate. They're very good, but aren't that complex and aren't that intricate. And there's not as much visual... I mean, there's a good amount of visual effects in it, yes, but there's not as much as you would initially think there is. So there's probably a lot of different reasons why something like that could come along and you would see it that way. But besides, there are some visual effects that are a lot harder to make look real and look good. There's other visual effects that are a lot easier to make real and look good, and thus less time intensive. And I think that a little bit of all of those have something to do with it. Mercer Create just puts in a super chat for dog. Thank you, Mercer. And the big jump happened. This always happens. The big jump. Here we go. John Salvi writes, new mic, is that Felipe's cousin? Well, I actually mentioned the other day on the show, I've been wanting this microphone for a long time. It is known as the Rode Podcaster. Now, when I was back at Collider, the microphones that I ordered for the desk, all the microphones everybody used was called the Rode Procaster mics. They were XLR microphones. I've always wanted, this is its brother microphone. It's called the Rode, not the Procaster, it's called the Podcaster because it's a USB mic. It actually plugs directly into the USB of your computer. It is a wonderful microphone. I've been wanting this microphone for a while. It's a little more on the expensive side, running you about $250 for the mic. The mic plus the arm ran me altogether about $340, $350 altogether. So, I mean, it's not something I'm just running around dropping money on like crazy. I saved up for this mic. I've been wanting this mic for a long time, and I'm very, very happy with it. Thank you for noticing it. Cameron Belgrade writes, which Paul Newman, Robert Redford movie do you like more? I can tell you right now, it's The Sting. I'll finish reading your question. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid or The Sting? I didn't even have to finish reading your question. I knew what the second one would be. And well, because it's obvious, but The Sting. And I know that puts me in the minority amongst a number of other film fans. I know a lot of people, I mean, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, it's iconic, man. It's classic, absolutely. But for one reason or another, The Sting, to me, is just, it's just on a different level. I love that movie. I probably watch it once every 2 years or so. That and Cool Hand Luke. The Sting and Cool Hand Luke are the two Paul Newman movies that I go back to at least once every 1 or 2 years and watch again. And by the way, if you haven't seen Cool Hand Luke, treat yourself. That's one of those movies that is not dated. You watch that, it's eternal themes in it. It's great. Go check that out. Thanks a lot for the question, Cameron. Dr. Panders writes, do you think Deadpool will connect the mutants with the MCU? Not in Deadpool 2, but in a future movie, maybe. Well, I mean, first of all, we got to understand, it's still not guaranteed that the X-Men or anything are coming to the MCU. Remember, the government could still put an axe in this whole thing. And it's going to take another year to 18 months before it actually clears all the loopholes and all the hurdles they got to go through for the government to approve the deal. It's still a long ways away. It's still possible it doesn't happen. It'll probably happen, but just understand it's still a long way. Other than that, no, I don't see Deadpool being the connective tissue. I think Deadpool will just be lumped in with X-Men and will be a part of the overall explanation of what they're doing with these characters in the first place. And then we'll just have to see where it goes. But I don't think they're going to make Deadpool the connective tissue. That just doesn't seem to fit with the style and the tone of the MCU to do it that way. Let's see. Mercer Create writes, thoughts on Star Trek Discovery and Orville Season 1. Orville was hit and miss. I did not like the premiere. But there were some, I watched the whole first season of The Orville, and there were some episodes that were actually quite good, and a number of episodes that were really quite bad. It for me, was a hit and miss show. I never knew what I was going to get when I watched it, but because some of the episodes were so good, I would watch every single episode. Star Trek Discovery, to me, was a revelation. Because, and I've told this story before, but I'll say it again, because in context, it's a point worth making here. I said for almost a year that this show was going to be crap. That it was a stupid idea for a show to start with. The fact that they were putting on the CBS All Access instead of just on TV was a stupid... I still think that's a dumb idea, but... And I just railed on this show for like a year. But, like I always do, once, I can think a movie's going to be bad. I can think a movie's going to be good. When the movie comes out, I take my expectations and I leave them at the door. And then I just watch the show or I just watch the movie and I let the movie speak for itself. And I did that with Star Trek Discovery, and I could have been stubborn. I said, well, I've been telling everybody all year that I think this show was going to be terrible, so I better say I think it's terrible. I don't do that. I watched it and I was like, damn, I really like this. I loved it. I loved Star Trek Discovery Season 1. I was bummed when the season ended, when the season finale happened, because it's like, I can't watch another episode for a while. I was completely bummed out about it. And I think it's going to be like a year till we get new episodes. But yeah, big fan of Star Trek Discovery. Which is funny because some of my Star Trek loving friends really don't like it. Robert Meyer Burnett does not like it. My buddy Scott Mance, I actually was text messaging back and forth with Scott Mance about it, and him and Robert Meyer Burnett as big as Star Trek fans as they come. And Mance and Robert Meyer Burnett do not like it. So take that with a grain of salt, but I loved it, and I thought it was going to be terrible. James Peter writes, John, have you seen Netflix's Lost in Space trailer? Thoughts? And do you think you will watch the show? I thought the trailer was boring. The trailer was a minute of walking, slow motion walking. Here. If you haven't seen the Lost in Space trailer, I did this on the John Campea show the other day, but if you haven't seen the Lost in Space trailer, don't bother clicking on it. Let me show you the entire trailer in 3 seconds, okay? Ready? There it is. That's the Lost in Space trailer. There is nothing to it, which is fine because it was the first announcement trailer. I don't expect fireworks in their first announcements trailer. I mean, if they want to do that, great. But it was just basically their first piece of promotion that they put out there just to announce, hey guys, this show is coming. It's coming in a couple of months. But honestly, I thought it was boring as hell. It did nothing to make me excited to watch the show. Will I watch the show? Yes, absolutely. I will absolutely check it out. But the trailer itself did nothing for me. Nothing wrong with it. I'm not going to say it was a bad trailer. It was just an announcement trailer. Telling the world, this is Lost in Space, and that's fine. Chris Parker writes, you're on trial for a crime you didn't commit. Your life is on the line. You can only defend you. Only one can defend you. Atticus Finch, Daniel Kaffee, Few Good Men, the Lincoln Lawyer, or Harvey Specter from Suits. I'm going to go Atticus Finch. Because if Atticus believes in me, he'll go, then again, I love the Lincoln Lawyer too. That one was really good. But yeah, I'm going Atticus Finch, one of the great all-time. The AFI actually listed him as one of the top 10 greatest heroes in movies of all time for good reason. So yes, I would go Atticus. Atticus would be my lawyer. Jose M writes, odd DC question, Michael Bay in talks, Whedon out. Or odd DC situation, Michael Bay in talks, Whedon out. I mean, that just tells you everything right there, doesn't it? We lost Joss Whedon, but don't worry. We're in talks with Michael Bay. Do you feel better? I know, really, Jose, it's a very odd situation. Ben Robinson writes, do you think there will ever be a Kurt Cobain biopic? It's tricky. It's a tricky thing to pull together because of the situation with his widow and all that kind of stuff and the suspicion and allegations. So, I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I'm not even interested in one. To be quite frank with you, I'm not interested in it, but that's just me. But I do think there are some very unique hurdles to it and about, who would be the one who would have to grant the rights to even do it. And could you get them to grant those? It would be tricky. I have a feeling if it was even possible for it to happen, it would have happened already. Like, that's just the way I feel about it. So I'm going to guess no. I'm not going to say I would bet $1,000 that'll never happen, but I'm going to guess no. My guess right now is no, it won't happen. Let's see. Pensive Ruin writes, John, I call BS. DC really sucks. What a joke. I mean, who knows? Who knows? Look, one thing to keep in mind here about the DC situation is, look, sometimes there's a line in a movie that says if you want to build something new, you have to tear down the old. We know DC and Warner Brothers is going through a lot of upheaval right now with the DCEU. We have to keep in mind that one of the possibilities that exist here is the possibility that they are just cleaning house and shaking everything up because they have a new plan. And if that's the case, okay, let's see what they do with this new plan. But I agree with you. On the outside looking in, on the surface, it does look like a bloody mess. It really does. But let's hold out that there is a possibility here that this could be part of a grander plan to bring everything back to health. And if that's the case, then great. And we'll find out soon enough. Let's see. Blake Carson writes, donate this to much respect. Oh, thank you so much, Clark. I really appreciate that. Thank you, man. That's really good of you to do. Paul writes, best of the 3 bad Fantastic Four movies. In my opinion, Silver Surfer. I actually think by a mile, the latest Fantastic Four is the best of the 3 Fantastic Four films. Because I still contend, I remember me and my friends would talk about this too. The first act of Fantastic Four is actually pretty good. Now, it completely goes off the rails after that, yes. But like the first act of the new Fantastic Four with Miles Teller and Michael B. Jordan is actually quite good. And I remember when we were sitting in the screening for the new for the most recent Fantastic Four movie, and we get like 25, 30, 35 minutes into it, and me and my buddies are like looking at each other going, this isn't bad. Like we came in expecting a trade. This is actually pretty good. And then the wheels came off. But I would say that the first act of the newest Fantastic Four was better than anything else in all the three Fantastic Four movies put together. So for that reason, I'm going to go the latest Fantastic Four is the best out of the three. Aaron Jarvis writes, best use of the word fuck in movies or television. Oh, I don't know, man. I would have to think about that. That's a huge, you're asking me a question I would seriously need to sit down for about 10 minutes and really think about it and go through. But by all means, guys, in the chat section, what do you think would be the best use of that? It's a fun question. It's just not one I can answer off the top of my head, unfortunately. Callus Menon writes, do you think that they should have less blood / violence / shooting scenes in movies, given what happened recently in Florida? It's a tough choice, but it may be worth it in the long run. No. Look, let's put it this way. The exact same movies play in England. They play in Britain. And yet there's like almost no gun violence in Britain. So you can't tell me that there is a cause and effect thing with, video games or movies having direct connections to then actions. Because if that were true, then we would see the same types of things happening in other countries that have the exact same media that we have. Look, I'm not going to get into a gun control debate. I have my opinions, you have your opinions. Nothing I can say one way or the other would make you change your mind one way or the other. But what I'm going to say is this. An indisputable fact is that these games, this media, which is shared across a lot of different national borders, is played in other countries as well, same media, and yet they don't have, almost, it feels like several times a year occurrences of, somebody going into school and shooting it up. If the media was the cause of it, then it would be happening everywhere else. And yet it doesn't happen everywhere else. It happens here. So I think we can strike that out as anything of the reason. And, movies are meant to be a reflection of life and reality. And so, no, I don't think that's something that needs to be or should be looked at, to be honest with you. Chris Warden writes, hey, John, don't have a question. I just wanted to say how much I appreciate what you do and your ability when it comes to the super chats and know when we're just kidding around and actually being serious. Well, I mean, sometimes I don't, right? Like somebody put in a joke the other day and it completely went over my head. Somebody put in a joke on the super chat, says, John, I recently saw a documentary on shipbuilding and it was riveting. Yeah, it was a joke. Shipbuilding, it was riveting. But because I'm in the midst of the show, it completely went over my head. And I'm like, okay, I've never heard of this documentary. And it totally went over my head. So I don't always know when people are kidding. I'm not that tuned in. But I really do appreciate the kind words, Chris. Thank you so much, man. Jack Tatum writes, hey, John, what's your favorite moment in the first 3 Indiana Jones movies? P.S. I just started a movie reviewing channel called Jack Tatum. Check it out if you can. My favorite moment, I think, of all 3 Indiana Jones movies is, I'm forgetting the character's name. Marcus is in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. And the Nazis have Indy and they have his father. They have Sean Connery and Harrison Ford captive. And they realize that Marcus is the one with the missing pages. And they go, no worries, we'll just have Marcus picked up. And Indiana Jones goes, you'll never find him. He's an expert in 25 languages. He knows every culture. He knows every custom. He'll blend in. He'll disappear. And with any luck, he's already found the Grail. And then it does a quick camera cut to Marcus in a marketplace going, hello, does anybody speak English? Hello. One of the funniest, most effective edits, one of the greatest edits of all time, particularly in the Indiana Jones thing. It was such a beautifully set up gag, and I think that is my probably all-time favorite. I mean, there's a huge list of favorite moments in Indiana Jones films, for sure. But that moment, with any luck, he's got the grail already. Does anybody speak English? Oh my God, that killed me. It kills me every time I see it. I love that scene. Okay, let's keep going here. Bunyan Snipe writes, do you think a Black Mirror-esque anthology TV series set in the Star Wars universe would work? Well, actually, I got asked almost an identical question to that last week. I don't really know that it does. Because, to be honest with you, I think if you're going to do a series, particularly in the Star Wars universe, Star Wars, other than Rogue One, which I loved Rogue One, but other than Rogue One, the Star Wars franchise has been about getting connected to characters and following the characters on their journey. Whether it was Luke or Han or now Rey and Finn and Kylo, it's about getting connected to these characters and going on their journey with them. An anthology-style weekly series with Star Wars, number one, sounds ridiculously expensive. Because at least if it's a series, look, any Star Wars show would be expensive. But at least if it's a series, you've got your sets and you've got your digital prints and you've got all your stuff and you can just reuse all that stuff week after week. You got to come up with brand new effects, brand new ship designs, brand new environments every single week in a Star Wars universe. That's going to get just cripplingly expensive. Cripplingly expensive. Plus, you don't get to follow a hero's journey along the way. So that's why I don't think they'll do it. It's possible, certainly possible, but I don't think that's the way they will go, and I probably don't think that's the way they should go. Let's see. Tortimer the Gray Gaming writes, some of the names you guys have is just amazing. What is it that you dislike so much about The Terminal? It's always your example of crap Spielberg offerings, but I find it a cute little movie. I know that all film is subjective, but I'm just curious. And that is one of the great things about why film being subjective is so awesome, because I can really dislike it, and yet you find joy in it, and that's the best thing about movies. Some people like to poo-poo on the idea of films being subjective because they say it's divisive. No. Films being subjective is awesome. Because it means what is good to somebody could be bad to somebody else, or vice versa. I don't like The Terminal. I found the writing weak. I never got connected to the character. I didn't think the humor worked in it. Any of that stuff. I just felt, the whole movie felt forced to me. But, for instance, my wife, Anne, really likes The Terminal. Probably has something to do with Tom Hanks being her favorite human being in the world. I swear to God, Anne would cut my throat in my sleep if she found out that Tom Hanks was going to die of kidney failure unless he got a replacement kidney, and somehow she found out that my kidney was compatible with Tom Hanks, she would kill me in my sleep to make sure that Tom Hanks lives. That's how much my wife loves Tom Hanks. And most of you would probably kill me in my sleep to save Tom Hanks, because he's like one of the greatest human beings in the world. But my wife loves The Terminal. But it's, yeah, for the reasons I already listed, it just didn't work with me. It just didn't work for me. But I know a number of people it does work for, and that's awesome, and I love that you love it, and I'm never going to try to talk you out of liking it. It's just that's why, for me personally, it doesn't really work, even though Spielberg is my all-time favorite director. Let's see. Matthew Leach writes, where'd it go? Where'd Matthew Leach go? I lost Matthew Leach. That's what happens, guys, when these questions. Oh, by the way, guys, I should probably mention, let's not send in any more, no more super chats. If you haven't sent them in already, no more super chats. Let's see. Wow, I really did go through a lot. Okay, so no more super chats. Matthew Leach writes, John, help me. Which movie should I watch first? Good Time, Victoria and Abdul, or Your Name? I was really pleasantly surprised with Victoria and Abdul. Call Me By Your Name, very good. Personally, I think it's a little bit overrated, but it's a good, solid film. Good Time is very good. Victoria and Abdul, it's a character-driven movie, and it's charming, and I loved it. I really did. So I would start with that one. That's the one that I would recommend to start with. Derek Large writes, which are we most likely to see a sequel to, Galaxy Quest or Mystery Men? Honestly, I would give my kidney to Tom Hanks to get either a Galaxy Quest or a Mystery Men thing. I don't think we're going to get either. I mean, which one are we more likely to get? I'll go Galaxy Quest. I think that one, because there was chat and talk about a TV show of Galaxy Quest even being developed. I can't remember it all off the top of my head. But that one I think has the greater chance of a sequel. But man, I would love a Mystery Men sequel. If you haven't seen Mystery Men, it was so ahead of its time. It's crazy. Watch it. Matthew Robinson writes, "Hey, John, do you think there's any comparison Annihilation and Joe Carnahan's Stretch? Both seem to lose the faith of the studio after production." Well, I mean, if there is any comparison, that's where the comparison ends. I mean, right there is that the studio didn't really seem to feel like they had a lot of faith in it. But these are two such completely different projects. They're two such completely different stories. Both movies took completely different paths to getting made, and with ultimately where they ended up with. That I think that's probably where the comparison. I can't really think of any other way to compare it other than that one situation that you've so accurately brought up. Boy Shao Sang just sends in a super chat. Thank you so much, boy. I appreciate that. Curtis Strange writes, "Have you seen The Greasy Strangler? Check it out. I have not seen The Greasy Strangler, and I'm having a feeling I'm getting punked again. But no, I've never even heard of it, to be honest with you, Curtis." Boy sends in another super chat. Thank you, boy. Matthew Koss writes, "If Disney gets X-Men and the MCU, can Magneto still be a Holocaust survivor, or will he be too old to be alive in present day?" Yeah, we're now 15 years after the X-Men had that storyline for Eric, and that is his story. Yeah, they would probably have to come up with something else. They would probably have to come up with something else, or some non-comic-canical way to explain him not being that old. It is a challenge they're going to face. They are going to face a challenge with that because, the whole concentration camp thing, the whole Holocaust thing is so now, especially today, so intricately tied in to our understanding of Eric that it's going to be tough. They're going to have to come up with something. I don't know what it is they need to come up with, but it is a definite conundrum they're going to have to address. They can't just pretend that one doesn't exist. They're going to have to address it if they get the rights to it. Adam K. writes, "Thoughts on Jason Bateman as a dramatic actor?" Well, we haven't had a lot of opportunity to see him act dramatically, right? So it's an incredibly small sample size. So, gosh, I'm even struggling off the top of my head. I can think of the one movie, but I'm drawing a blank on the name of it. Because even everything that has dramatic slant also is like comedic in nature that he does. So hard for me to tell. I'd have to sit down and think about it. There might be 3 or 4 dramas that he's done that I'm not pulling off the top of my head right now, that if I sit down and look at a list, I'd go, oh yeah, those. But for right now, I don't think I can answer that because I can't really think of too many examples of him in a dramatic piece. Nathan C. writes, a lost super chat shadow question last week misphrased. Never understood its bad rep online and why it doesn't have cult status of Darkman. Oh, well. Oh, the shadow. I thought I answered that question. Let me read again. Shadow question last week misphrased. Never understood its bad rep online and why it doesn't have cult status like Darkman. I'm not so sure that Darkman has a much higher status than the Shadow does, to be honest with you. And as I mentioned last week, I love the Shadow. I love that movie. Alec Baldwin is killer in that movie. I think it's great. I got a big kick out of that movie. But yeah, hey, look, it's the subjectivity of film, man. I look at certain films a certain way. You may look at it a different way. You may look at a film one way and a bunch of other people may look at it a different way. So, I mean, that's just the way it is. But I don't know that Darkman is looked at all that much differently. I don't know that Darkman has a much more esteemed status. I know with the people in the circles I travel in, it's probably the Shadow and Darkman are probably on the same level with each other, but your circles may be a little bit different. Devontae Brown writes, read the Brendan Fraser news about his disappearance. Sad story, even a sad reason why he did Looney Tunes movie and wasn't what you always thought. / him too. I haven't read the story, Devontae, but now I'm dying to end the show so I can go read it. Actually, let me pull something up. Brendan Fraser. Let me see if there's anything in here about that. Oh, wow. Yeah, the headlines are... Wow. The headlines are very shocking. I will have to go and read those, but thanks for bringing our attention to that, Devontae. I appreciate it. Ben Rayner writes, Thoughts on the Frisco Kid with Ford and Wilder? I can't remember it. Just gonna be honest with you, I can't remember it, Ben. Sorry about that. Saraba writes, chances of Spidey attracting to Shuri in Infinity War. I don't think so, because I don't think Spider-Man is going to be in Wakanda, and I think Shuri is going to be in Wakanda. I'm not even 100% sure that Shuri's going to be in the movie. She probably will be in a small role, but I don't think we're going to see the two characters interact, because I don't think they all end up in Wakanda. I think they're probably going to be separated by a bunch, so I think the chances of that are very low. Boy Shang writes, hey John, your take on celebrities for president. Would you vote for The Rock if he actually ran? Who would you think should be next president? No, I wouldn't vote for The Rock. Why? Why would I vote for The Rock? Look, and this is this is my one thing. I said this about Trump. I said this about Oprah. I will say it about The Rock. Why the fuck would anybody vote into the most important office in the world and the most important job in the world when they have zero experience of public service? Why would you vote somebody into office for the highest public service office in the world with somebody who hasn't got the first effing clue about public service and never cared about public service before in their life until they want to be president? You know, like the whole thing with Oprah drove me crazy. This Oprah for president thing, this is ridiculous. She's never shown any interest in serving in public office and serving her community. She's never been a city councilwoman. She's never been a mayor. She's never been a state senator. She's never been a senator or a congresswoman or has ever served. And yet people want to just hand her the most important office. Yeah, but I like Oprah so much. Who cares? She's completely unqualified. So is The Rock. Now, look, The Rock wants to run for Congress and serve his district, get some political experience, actually learn how the political system works, learn what foreign policy is, learn all that kind of stuff, get experience with it, maybe serve a couple terms, and then wants to run for president, that's fine. Then I have no problem with it. But this whole notion of, I like Oprah, let her run for president. It's like, oh my God. Oh my God. It just drives me crazy. The lack of respect that Americans have for their own highest office is absolutely just, it amazes me. It amazes me, and I'm talking left and I'm talking right. The amount of disrespect and how lowly Americans think of their own top office, it boggles my mind. Yeah, let's just vote in somebody because he says things that it sounds like I agree with. He's got no experience. He's never cared about serving this country a day in their life. She's never served in any level of government before. But yeah, let's give her the highest office in the country. I mean, it drives me crazy. I'm sorry, this isn't supposed to be political talk, but look, then you get somebody like Reagan. See, Reagan was a celebrity. Yeah, but Reagan took a path to the presidency. He didn't just wake up one day, hey, I'm a famous actor, let me run for president. He didn't do that. He served in smaller offices first, then took the highest office. Anyway, that's just the way I see it, but nobody cares what my thoughts are on politics, stuff like that. But I wanted to answer your question. So that's what I think about celebrities running for president. Let's see. Dr. Panders writes, are you getting the new Star Wars trilogy on Blu-ray as they come out, or are you waiting for the box collection? I don't buy Blu-rays. I get all my movies digitally, and I buy them as they come out digitally. So they're all sitting in my Google Play account. All of them. I can watch them on my phone. I can watch them on the computer right now. I can watch it on my TV. I can watch when I'm at the gym. Yeah, I am notorious that I generally don't buy Blu-rays. I'm an all digital guy now. I'm a completely all digital guy. Adam K writes, have you ever had a conversation where someone changed your mind about a movie? Alternatively, have you ever been able to change somebody else's mind? Yeah, I mean, I've had my mind changed a couple of times but never about whether I liked a movie or not. I've had my mind changed on tons of issues in movies, but I've never had anybody change my mind on whether I liked a movie or not, because look, this is something people don't get. You don't choose if you like a movie or not. You can choose to say you like a movie, and you can choose to say you don't, but whether or not you actually like a movie, you don't get a say in that. It's a natural reaction that you have to it. You don't choose whether you like a certain food, the taste of a food. You just put it in your mouth, and your own personal unique senses tell you if you like it or not. And so when it comes to movies, you can't talk somebody out of the experience they had. I watched a movie, I had a great experience. You can tell me why you hate it all you want, and that's great, but it's not going to change the experience I had with it. You might convince me on certain issues in the movie, like this was dumb for them to do in the movie. Yes, I've had lots of people say that to me, and me go, actually, yeah, that was dumb for them to do that in the movie. I still liked it, but you're right, that was a dumb thing for them to do in the movie. And I never try to convince anybody to like or dislike a movie. I will debate people on specific issues in a film, but I'll never, what's the point in trying to change you can't change somebody's initial reaction that they have and how they respond emotionally to a movie. That is just a reaction we have to it, and that's the beauty of the subjectivity of film. The Mistamish, what a great name, the Mistamish writes, "Hey JC, was Black Panther inspired by The Lion King? Some parts felt very similar, which made those parts predictable for me. Love the movie overall, though. Keep up the great work." Well, I mean, to be fair, there are some standard story hooks that were in a ton of other movies long before The Lion King. So I think there are some standard story hooks that every movie uses. Every movie uses a certain collection of standard story hooks, and there's a billion of them to choose from. But just because you find a similar movie that also uses those story hooks, that doesn't mean it was directly affected by that one. It could have been affected by ones that other film also borrowed it from. So, are there some narrative beat similarities between Black Panther and Lion King? Sure, but I think that's coincidental. I also found a lot of very big story beat similarities between Black Panther and James Bond movies. Next time you watch Black Panther, just keep James Bond in mind. There's a lot of James Bond influence in Black Panther. I also saw some Star Wars influence in Black Panther as well. So, but I don't think it was just like the blueprint for Black Panther was, for instance, Lion King. I don't think that's the way they did it. James Peter writes, "It is time for another comic company to try. New Hellboy could equal Dark Horse Universe. Possibly. The problem is, you take a try, costs hundreds of millions of dollars. Not everybody has that money. And the reality is, none of the Hellboy movies have ever made a lot of money. As much as some people love the Hellboy movies, none of them made a ton of money. None of them did. So it's difficult to try to build a cinematic universe around something that never made a lot of money in the first place. Could this new Hellboy have bigger success than other attempts at Hellboy movies have? Sure, that could, yes. But it's got a long way to go to establishing like a Dark Horse, which, if I'm not mistaken, is owned by DC. Correct me if I'm wrong, is Dark Horse not owned by DC? I thought they were, or at least they were at some point. Anyway. But there are other independent... Look, we've seen stories about studios signing contracts with some other comic book lines that we're going to do this, and then nothing ever comes of it. So it's an uphill battle to fight, but I would love it if a whole new brand of not so popular to the public consciousness comic book characters were able to come in and actually stake a place for themselves in the marketplace. That would be cool if that happens. It's just a really big order, and it's a really big uphill battle to fight. So we're just going to have to see if that's able to happen anytime soon. All right. Twigriff writes, "Great part of Ragnarok was Loki destroying the vault by releasing Surtur. Call back to scene with Odin in Thor 1. Do you think it's meant to symbolically free him from being a stolen relic?" I don't think so. You know what's funny? You're not the first guy to mention that to me. That the whole notion that, Loki saw himself as just another one of Odin's trophies. That Odin took him from the Frost Giants as a trophy. I think Loki eventually realized his father just flat out loved him. I think he came to realize that. And I think he came to realize that even before Ragnarok. I think he did know his father loved him. Then he was kind of torn by guilt over all that. But that's another... I love the Loki character. The emotional depth they go to with Loki, and the different layers they did that between the relationship with him and his brother, him and his father. I think they did some great work with the Loki character. But I don't know that I see it that way, though. Because Loki wasn't destroying the vault. Loki was destroying Asgard. And yes, it happened to take place in the vault because that's where the eternal flame was. But I really don't think I saw that as a cathartic moment for Loki, releasing himself from his own chains of seeing himself as just another trophy of Odes. I don't think that was it's a really interesting way to look at it. I just don't personally subscribe to it myself. Okay, Haskell420 writes, "Hey John, good evening. Good evening. Warner Brothers is effed up. It's like, really? Pfft. Best F usage scene, planes, trains, and automobiles." That's a good one. Best F-bomb movie by far, Midnight Run. That is also a really good one. And look, we're going to talk about this whole Joss Whedon thing tomorrow on the John Campea show too. By the way, I should let you guys know right now, this weekend is my birthday weekend. My birthday's not actually till Monday, but me and Anne and some of our friends are celebrating my birthday weekend by going to Las Vegas. Surprise, surprise. So we're going to go to Vegas for a few days, which means I'm actually taking a break from the channel. So there will be the John Campea show tomorrow morning, but there will not be an open mic tomorrow afternoon, and there will not be a John Campea show on Saturday or Sunday. I'll be back on Monday for the next episode of the John Campea show, but just so you guys know, I'm taking a break for a couple of days to celebrate my birthday weekend with my friends and my wife. So just so you know about that. Okay. The Mono Report. "Hey, John, are you reviewing Annihilation?" Nah, probably not. I'm probably not. Although I have my review for Game Night ready to go. I was going to post it, and then the whole Joss Whedon thing happened, so I thought that had to be the priority. I'm going to put up the Game Night review as soon as I'm done this show. So about 15 minutes after this show's done, watch for my Game Night review. I just saw it last night, and I didn't feel like reviewing it at like 1 o'clock in the morning, so check that out, but I don't think I'm going to be doing an Annihilation review, to be honest. UC151 writes, "Getting tired of the apples to oranges comparison of Black Panther and The Dark Knight because Black Panther has a higher critic score. Can't the films just be celebrated for succeeding?" Well, I mean, look, all the critic score is, and it still amazes me how much people don't understand this. The critic score is not really a score for the film. The critic score simply tells you what percentage of critics liked it. That's it. It's just to tell you what percentage of critics liked it versus what percentage of critics didn't like it. That's all. It doesn't prove one movie's better over the other. It's just a really nice little kind of guidepost. Look, because when I see that a critic score of 90% on the movie, that lets me know, hey, if all these film critics who have such wildly different tastes from each other, if 90% of them like it, then it's not guaranteed, but it's a pretty good chance then that if I watch it, I'm going to like it. I don't know if I'll love it. I don't know if I'll think it's the best movie ever, or I don't know if I just think it's a little bit better than okay, but at least it gives me some indication that I think the odds are, if 90% of the critics like this movie, I will probably enjoy it then if I go and watch it. To what degree, who knows? And maybe I won't like it, but at least, gives me some better odds that it's going to be a movie that I like. The fact that one movie has like a couple of percentage points over another, that doesn't mean anything. And anybody who thinks otherwise doesn't really understand how Rotten Tomatoes works. And I love the Rotten Tomatoes system, but you just got to understand what it does mean and what it doesn't mean. So it's not a comparison. It really isn't. Matthew Leach writes, Chantal Nong was recently named Vice President of Production and will on development and production management for DC Films. Thoughts? Well, yes, but it's really all about the head guy, and they just appointed the new head guy of the DC Films, and I'm blanking on his name. It's really going to be about what does he want to do. All the VPs that now come in under him are just going to be responsible for carrying out his vision. So it's really all about that. I mean, it's great that somebody is vice president, but it's really, and talking like a country, but it's really about the president, because the vice president is just going to carry out what the president wants done. And it's kind of the same thing there. These people are all going to be very talented, gifted people that are going to be responsible for carrying out somebody else's vision. And it's really about their vision. And we're going to have to see how that all kind of plays out. Gio writes, that's my real name, by the way. Some of you may not know. My actual real name is Giovanni. Anyway, better screenwriter, Aaron Sorkin or Taylor Sheridan? Sorkin. And Sorkin has a much longer track record of success. Taylor Sheridan has done a couple of things, and he's crushed it every single time. Hell or High Water, the one he just did, Wind River, and others. But his resume right now is far too small to try to compare it to a resume of like an Aaron Sorkin, who's got a resume this big, right? So you can't really try to compare the two of them. So if you have to say, hey, which one do you take right now, Aaron Sorkin or Taylor Sheridan? Sorkin, easy. I'll take Sorkin. Let's see. Andrew Hogue writes, thoughts on Almost Famous. I like the film. I was never as big on it as everybody else was. Because a lot of people just, oh my God, like just raved about it. And I watched it. I liked it. It's good. If I had to give it a thumbs up or thumbs down, I give it a thumbs up. I like the film. It's not one that I go back and watch every year. I didn't think it was spectacular, but I liked it. It's a good film. Matthew Leach writes, I forgot to write work. I can't even remember what that one is supposed to be connected to. Sorry about that. Let's see. D. Walthers writes, hey, John, I sent you the email with the drawing again. Title definitely not. I did get it, and it's great, and I loved it, and Anne loved it as well, and we're going to show our dogs it as well. It's a great picture. Thank you so much. I love it when you guys send me artwork that you guys do. And D did a picture of me with my guitar and Anne and my dogs in it. It's a great picture. So I did get it. Anne loved it. I loved it. Thank you so much for sending that. Old Flicks Joe writes, just a couple perfect timing here, almost done. Old Flicks Joe writes, John, I think Deacon Frost is one of the underrated villains portrayed in the comic book movies. He's in my top 10 Marvel movie villains. Your thoughts? Well, he's not really a Marvel movie villain, even though Blade is a Marvel character. But yeah, Deacon Frost I thought was a great character. I mean, right up until the very end, but I thought Deacon Frost was a really great character. I thought he was a wonderful kind of antagonist. I thought he was played really cool. Yeah, I dig him, but I wouldn't, even though Blade is a Marvel character, was not part of an MCU, was not part of a shared cinematic universe. So I don't really count him or Blade when discussing favorite Marvel, when we're talking about movies, favorite Marvel character. Well, I wouldn't count Wolverine in those. I wouldn't count Spider-Man, although you can count Spider-Man now. I wouldn't count Blade in those. So I don't really think of Deacon Frost in those terms. But, I mean, it's totally cool if you do, but I like the character a lot. I really do. And the final question today comes to us from Matthew Leach, who writes, I meant the anime Your Name. Oh, not Call Me By Your Name. People in the chat are just letting you know. Oh, I didn't realize. I just assumed you meant Call Me By Your Name, since it is nominated for Best Picture and all that kind of stuff. Got it. All right. Sorry for the misunderstanding, but you can see why I confused that up a little bit. All right, guys, that will do it. I mean, we're practically right an hour. This was perfectly timed. For today's episode of Open Mic, once again, guys, don't forget, no Open Mic tomorrow, and no episodes of the John Campea Show on Saturday or Sunday. There is an episode of the John Campea Show tomorrow. We'll probably talk a little bit more about this whole Joss Whedon thing as we start to unpack it a little bit more. So make sure you join me for that. And hey, guys, thanks so much for being here. Thanks for your patience with me. I love doing these shows. I love Open Mic. I really do. And I love that you guys come along with me and do it along with me. Don't forget, guys, subscribe to my YouTube channel if you have not already. Click the thumbs up button. Leave a thought in the comments section below. And follow me on social media simply at John Campea. That'll do it for me, guys. Thanks a lot for joining me. My name's John Campea. And until my next video, bye-bye.